Today's story takes us to Mongolia and one of the strangest cryptids ever rumored to exist, the Mongolian Death Worm. Across the endless sands of the Gobi Desert, terrifying legends have circulated for generations about a blood-red creature capable of killing anything that crosses its path. The creature is usually described as a worm-like animal living beneath the desert sands. Witnesses claim it measures between 2 and 5 feet long, roughly as thick as a human arm, with a bright red body and horn-like spikes on both ends. According to local stories, it moves beneath the sand in rippling waves and possesses deadly abilities. Its body fluids are said to be highly venomous, capable of spraying corrosive liquid, and some legends even claim it can discharge electricity like an eel. Locals say the creature appears mostly during June and July, hiding beneath sand dunes and attacking humans or camels that wander too close. Modern depictions often portray it as something resembling a giant land-dwelling bobbit worm. The true origins of the legend are impossible to trace, but Mongolian nomads have believed in the creature for centuries, and many claim to have either seen it themselves or known someone who had. The first major Western reference to the creature appeared in 1926 in a book by American naturalist Roy Chapman Andrews. In his writings, Andrews described attending gatherings with Mongolian officials, where discussions about the creature repeatedly surfaced. Interestingly, none of the officials claimed to have personally seen the death worm, yet all of them strongly believed it existed and described it in nearly identical ways. One Mongolian cabinet minister even claimed his wife's cousin had encountered the creature firsthand. But the most memorable description came from Mongolian Prime Minister Damdin Bazar. He described the creature as resembling a 2-foot-long sausage with no visible head or legs. According to him, it was so venomous that touching it meant certain death. He also claimed the creature lived in the harshest and most remote parts of the Gobi Desert. Because these statements came from government officials, many people considered them especially credible. The creature was mentioned again in Andrews' 1932 book, The New Conquest of Central Asia, where he noted that the death worm supposedly inhabited the driest and most dangerous regions of Western Mongolia. As stories about the creature spread, explorers from around the world became obsessed with finding it. One of the most famous investigations came from Czech explorer Ivan Makl. In 1990 and again in 1992, Makl led expeditions deep into the Gobi Desert searching for evidence of the death worm. At one point, his team even attempted to force the creature out of hiding using controlled explosions. The efforts failed completely. According to Makl, many Mongolian locals seemed deeply uncomfortable discussing the creature. During the 1992 expedition, local Buddhist monks reportedly warned the team that the death worm was an evil supernatural entity and urged them to stop searching for it. Soon afterward, Makl experienced a disturbing nightmare about the creature and woke up covered in painful sores across his back. The expedition was later featured in a 1993 documentary titled Mystery Monster. Still determined to find proof, Makl returned again in 2004. This time, he brought a lightweight aircraft equipped with cameras to photograph large areas of the Gobi Desert from the air. Once again, the expedition found nothing. Then in 2005, a British expedition organized by the Centre for Fortean Zoology launched another large-scale search across the desert. The team was led by cryptozoologist Richard Freeman. Using local guides, the group attempted to flood sections of sand and block small streams in hopes of forcing the creature out of underground tunnels. But the results were disappointing. Freeman personally doubted the death worm was actually a worm at all. He argued that large, multicellular invertebrates usually depend heavily on moisture, making survival in the dry Gobi Desert unlikely. According to his research, most local sightings also came secondhand. Stories passed from relatives, friends, or rumors within communities. Because of this, Freeman suggested the death worm may simply be an exaggerated species of lizard or snake. Further expeditions followed. In 2006, the American paranormal TV show Destination Truth investigated the legend. In 2009, New Zealand journalist David Farrier also searched for evidence. Neither expedition discovered anything convincing. Interestingly, while researching this topic, I noticed something important. Unlike many cryptid legends, the Mongolian death worm has very few detailed eyewitness accounts. Almost every story traces back to vague rumors, missing persons cases, or stories someone heard from another person. One of the only direct sightings came in 1983. Russian zoologist Yuri Konstantinovich Orlov was interviewing locals in Mongolia when a young boy suddenly claimed he had found a death worm nearby. Orlov rushed outside expecting something extraordinary. Instead, he discovered an ordinary sand boa feeding on a small animal. The snake's smooth reddish body and blunt tail made it difficult to distinguish head from tail at first glance. Adult female sand boas can reach nearly 4 feet long and are generally harmless to humans. Orlov concluded that the death worm legend likely evolved from people misidentifying snakes or worm-like reptiles, combined with fear of the unknown. Cryptozoologist Carl Schucker also proposed that sightings may have involved sand boas or worm lizards. Worm lizards, also known as amphisbaenians, are underground reptiles whose bodies strongly resemble giant worms. Their heads are small, their scales are uniform across the body, and they move in ways that can look extremely unnatural. While researching further, I also discovered many sensational internet stories that appear completely fabricated. One rumor claimed that in 2003, a German filmmaker named Frank encountered the death worm while filming wolves in Mongolia, resulting in the deaths of his cameraman and assistant director. But despite extensive searching, I could find no actual news reports supporting the story. The only connection I found was the 2003 sci-fi film Children of Dune, whose giant sand creatures were visually inspired by the death worm legend, and one of the writers happened to be named Frank Herbert. Another online rumor claims secret Mongolian texts describe Genghis Khan's tomb being guarded by mysterious creatures later identified as death worms. However, after searching through available versions of the secret history of the Mongols, I found no mentions of such creatures whatsoever. Personally, I think the Mongolian death worm probably does not exist as a single real species. First, even the English name death worm is likely an exaggerated translation created by explorers. In Mongolian, the creature's original name more closely translates to something like large intestine worm, referring to its appearance rather than supernatural abilities. Second, witness descriptions vary dramatically depending on the region. Some stories mention corrosive venom, while others focus on electric shocks. Some describe it as a worm, others as a snake or lizard-like creature. To me, this feels less like one actual animal and more like a legend built from multiple desert creatures and exaggerated folklore over time. The sand wave movement may come from rattlesnakes or sidewinder snakes. The red body could come from sand boas or worm lizards. The horn-like spikes may have originated from local reptiles or symbolic artistic depictions. And with modern movies and games constantly reimagining the creature, the legend has only become more terrifying over time. According to interviews collected by journalist David Farrier, reports of the death worm began decreasing significantly after the 1950s, and modern sightings have become extremely rare. Of course, it's still possible that some strange desert species once existed and later disappeared. After all, the unknown will always be greater than the known. And that is exactly what makes UMA so fascinating. That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching.